Okay, this is going to be a video on the topic of interpersonal communication. It's currently 10:55, so let's see how long this lasts. Okay, interpersonal communication is both voluntary and involuntary and can be nurturing messages or functional messages depending on the situation. Nurturing messages generally occur in more informal situations, and functional messages occur in places like the workplace or school. These are our objectives for the length of this video, and we're going to define interpersonal communication, define other things like functional messages and nurturing messages, and describe the stages of relationship development, and demonstrate interpersonal skills of recognition, sharing personal information, active listening, constructive criticism, etc., etc. Constructive criticism. First term. Stating what is not working or what is bothering someone, making thoughtful suggestions for change. Keep in mind that this is thoughtful suggestions and not just unnecessary comments on what is and is not, what you think the person needs to do. All of these constructive criticism is only aimed to help better the person who you're criticizing. Downward communication is the sending of messages from superior to subordinates. Self-explanatory. Functional messages are the managing of day-to-day necessities and the sharing of basic information. They also serve a purpose. Usually a business purpose, like you're telling your boss, oh, okay, these memos need to go outwards and these memos need to come in. I don't really know what I'm talking about because I've never had a real job. But the point is that functional messages are messages that share really important, not so necessary basic information. Horizontal communication is the sending of messages between peers. A mentor is a role model or career counselor to a younger member of an organization. Nurturing members' messages indicate a support and valued relationship. Not always between a mentor. It can also be between friends or between like a parent and child, etc. Relational skills are interpersonal skills used to bind or maintain a good relationship through the transmission of confirming messages. There are 4 stages to a relationship, and there's the first meeting, the friendly stage, the involved stage, and the stable relationship stage. This is generally addressing the strictly relationship, as in romantic relationships, not so much like friendships that are purely platonic. Relational skills serve a purpose to keep people connected and to keep the workplace friendly. There are several ways of using relational skills, and you can simply read them and pause this video if you don't have enough time. Workplace interpersonal communication skills. There are 4 points listed on here, and it's talking about how to use interpersonal communication skills in the workplace. And this can apply to any more formal setting, like like a workplace, or if you go to school, then your school or university, etc. You can just read these points and pause if you do not have enough time. Stages of interpersonal communication. Language is used in general to establish rapport at the very first part. Language is used to establish rapport between people. So when you first start up a conversation with people, try to find common ground for conversation. Ask questions of the other person so they feel important. Say things that are generally agreed upon, like, oh, it's so hot outside today, etc., etc. Try not to get into very personal topics. Try to present a good image, and don't tell the person that you first meet that you don't like him or her. Just find an excuse to leave the conversation. Talk about general things for the first meeting. Friendly relations. It's pleasant, but not truly intimate. It involves nurturing messages, and it's usually people that you've already established some sort of acquaintanceship with. Usually people that you relate to, you don't really talk to that often. Involved relationship. At this stage, feelings are easily shared. People will be able to tell you that you both are very close. Relationships at this stage are characterized by a lot of nurturing messages. It's hard to be this level with someone has to give them negative feedback because of your job, or your close friend could take advantage of your expected greater freedom at work. Employers discourage coworkers to work together and have involved relationships because it makes other workers feel uncomfortable. Dating at work also becomes a problem, and if the romance in the relationship ends, it's hard to still work with them. Stable relationships. At this stage, each person knows the other person extremely well. You share deep feelings and very private information. It's unusual for people within the workplace to have relationships like this. Skills. Recognition. Includes like recognizing the other person, everyday talking to the other person, acknowledging the other person. Greetings don't always have to be verbal. Simple heads up will also be okay. Small talk. This is where you talk about sports and shopping, and like when men gather around the water cooler and they're like, "Oh yeah, the wife is spending so much money." You get what I'm saying? Sharing personal information. This is generally tied to the more friendly towards more intimate relationship scale. So share your information may or may not be personal to you. You're going to have to trust the person that you're telling. You choose to share if you're not forced to tell anything. Sharing personal information means voluntarily telling someone relatively private information about yourself. When you're in a very intimate conversation, try not to take the focus away. Just let the conversation flow where it goes, whether the focus be on you or your partner. Active listening. This type of listening is done by most professionals, such as counselors or therapists. This type of listening takes patience and sensitivity. It also requires personal listening skills. This is the kind of listening that you actually have to learn how to develop. A lot of people develop this on their own based on their experiences with other people. And it is about recognizing the other person's feeling, reflecting back on those feelings in order to supply them with nurturing messages. Constructive criticism involves stating what is and is not working, what's bothering you. These guidelines are really helpful to constructive criticism. Talk to others in terms of I say, I think, or I feel, or try not to say in my opinion, but say I think or I feel, so it shows that what they are doing does, in some way does affect you, so they'll be more motivated in order to change themselves. Describe the behavior, don't tell the person. You stick to the present, don't talk about the past, because people get really, really upset when you do that. It takes time and thought to phrase criticism in a constructive way, but it's worth the effort. Please make sure that you are actually trying very, very hard in order to be as nice as possible. Also, another thing that you could use when you're doling out constructive criticism is to offer them a compliment, and for every compliment, offer constructive criticism. So, for example, oh, you manage your time really well, but you don't really know how to deal with other people, or something that's a little bit more related. Developing relational skills. You must recognize relational skills in situations to work on building them. Recognize the need for improving a particular skill. You need to be honest. Analyze your present communication behavior and decide what could be improved upon. Plan the change. Once deciding on something to work out, figure out what you want the outcome to be. Try it out, get feedback to modify your behavior, and make it your own. Issues of interpersonal communication. Needed definitions for this subject. Functional messages and relationships. Here's just a review of all the things that we've been going over. Things like functional messages, nurturing messages, relationship in the 4 stages, the 4 important relational skills like recognition, sharing of personal information, active listening, constructive criticism. The direction that messages can take is also present, like downward or upward when you're talking to your subordinate or your superior, or horizontal directions when you're talking to your coworkers or your peers. Make sure that if you use humor in the workplace, it is not inappropriate. Here are more issues of interpersonal relationship, and they go in depth. 4 directions of communication. Downward, when you're talking to subordinate. Upward, when you're talking to superior. Horizontal, which is communication that occurs between peers. A mentor, and then also communication with a mentor or role model. Managing humor, rumors, or gossip. Humor in the workplace creates a sense of ease and belonging. Laughter helps break up boredom and repetition. Funny stories can help create a sense of being an insider. Participation in humorous rituals gives everyone a sense of belonging. Humor is part of a passage or sign of success or movement through an organization. Humor at another person's expense is not appropriate. This is not a good idea. And even if you're absolutely positive that they are comfortable with it, try to shy away from this type of humor. Current stories that have not been verified as true are called rumors. Gossip consists of rumors of a very personal nature. Rumors and gossip creates a sense of social connection and acceptance in a group, but they can be entertaining, but at the same time can be destroying and cruel. And negative gossip can devastate a person emotionally and cause pain. It can also destroy a person's reputation, which is never good. Reading the interpersonal culture. The interpersonal style can tell you a great deal about what is or is not acceptable. You also need to judge the style based on several things, like how people talk, how people address each other, sometimes how even people dress. And last type of organization maintains a distant or individual culture. Employees function individually. There's little personal interaction between workers. There's no nurturing communication or relational skills. This one seems like the worst one to me. But if you like working on your own, then go for it. Wrap up. Everywhere you go, you'll be involved in some kind of interpersonal communication. Interpersonal communication, just as a brief reminder, is communication between other people. Not inner dialogue, just communication between you and another person. You have to learn to listen and pay attention so you don't say something that is inappropriate for that situation, whether it's at your workplace or at home with family and friends. Here's your review. Here's a review, and then continuation of the review. Pause this video if you don't have enough time to read. And here's a test. Here's a test to test yourself on whether or not you understand interpersonal communication. And I'll flip back to the first page again so you can get a good look at that. Pause the video right now if you want to stay here and read this. And that's all. Thanks for listening.